Hello, you're watching Afternoon Live. I'm Martine Croxall. Today at 2. As many as 270 women may have had their lives shortened after computer errors meant they missed their final breast cancer screening.
Tragically, there are likely to be some people in this group who would have been alive today if the failure had not happened.
Conservative Brexiteers tell the Prime Minister to drop a key proposal on customs. Theresa May says her policy is clear.
We will be leaving the customs union. We want to ensure that we can have an independent trade policy.
A woman accused of murdering her boyfriend in an acid attack begins giving evidence. TSB bosses face questions from MPs shortly over the IT failure which left customers unable to access their accounts. Coming up on Afternoon Live, all the sport with Hugh. And Liverpool preparing to face Rome, Hugh.
Yeah, that's right, Martine. Good afternoon. 5,000 Liverpool fans are in Rome for a significant day, both on and off the pitch. By the end of it, well, they're hoping for a Champions League final, but also a safe return home as well. We'll talk security and, of course, the semi-final a little later on.
Hugh, thank you very much. And Stav has all the weather. Bank holiday, not too shabby.
Not at all too shabby, Martine. Yeah, it looks like it's warming up. Bit grotty today, though. This is a scene from Sussex. It's windy, it's wet, but elsewhere we're looking at some sunshine. And then the theme is for the rest of the week, it should warm up. And I'll have more details on that and the bank holiday weekend a little bit later on. Stav, thank you. Also coming up. At 101, Dame Vera Lynn is nominated for 2 Classic Brit Awards 80 years after she released her first single. Hello, this is Afternoon Live. I'm Martine Croxall. Up to 270 women in England may have had their lives shortened because they didn't receive invitations to a final routine breast cancer screening. The Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt has told MPs that a computer error had meant that 450,000 women aged around 70 had failed to get invitations since 2009. He announced an independent review and apologised to the women and their families wholeheartedly and unreservedly, saying oversight of the screening programme had not been good enough.
Earlier this year, PHE analysis of trial data from the service found that there was a computer algorithm failure dating back to 2009. The latest estimates I've received from PHE is that as a result of this, between 2009 and the start of 2018, an estimated 450,000 women aged between 68 and 71 were not invited to their final breast screening. At this stage, it is unclear whether any delay in diagnosis will have resulted in any avoidable harm or death, and that is one of the reasons I'm ordering an independent review to establish the clinical impact. Our current best estimate, which comes with caveats as it's based on statistical modelling rather than patient reviews, and because there is currently no clinical consensus about the benefits of screening for this age group, is that there may be between 135 and 270 women who had their lives shortened as a result.
Well, the Shadow Health Secretary, John Ashworth, said his thoughts with the women whose lives were affected by the error.
I understand that the Secretary of State has referred to estimates, but when the facts are established, will he assure us that each and every case will be looked into sensitively and in a timely manner? Our thoughts also turn to the 450,000 women who were not offered the screening they should have had. So I welcome the Secretary of State's commitment to contact the 309,000 women estimated to be still alive.
Shadow Health Secretary John Ashworth. Well, with us now is Baroness Morgan, Chief Executive of the UK's largest breast cancer charity, Breast Cancer Now. Baroness Morgan, thank you very much for coming in. Your reaction, first of all, 450,000 women missing invitations over a period of 9 years.
I mean, firstly, I'm so sad to hear about this for the women involved. I mean, it is a colossal failure, administrative failure, and it's right that the Secretary of State has apologised, and it's right that there's an independent inquiry been set up to look into it. But let's just think about the women who have been affected by this, and at the moment they don't know who they are yet. And so, of course, our hearts should go out to them, and there should be absolutely appropriate support should be available to them as they come to terms with what might have happened because of this.
So what form does that support take? Because the advice at the moment seems to be, don't rush to your GP if you think you've missed out.
Well, that's very easy to say. We know that uncertainty causes distress, and I think it's right that we've put in place moves to contact all those who have potentially been affected by this, to provide a helpline. Public Health England are doing that, and the charities, Breast Cancer Care, Macmillan, are standing by. So there is support being put in place. But let's face this has been going on for 10 years, and we have to know, why has this happened, and how can we have confidence that this isn't going to happen again?
Yeah, because we are so dependent on technology these days, aren't we? I mean, you can't go back to the old sort of index card system.
One of the things we know is that early diagnosis can really help improve outcomes for breast cancer. So it's absolutely vital that we can have confidence in our screening service.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing that's particularly frustrating about this, isn't it? Is that women have been encouraged for years, well, we've all been encouraged for so many different health issues to seek out screening, to not ignore those invitations when they come. But if they don't come, how are you meant to know?
Absolutely. Women rely on the screening service to say when they're due for an appointment, and of course we're talking about women in the older age group where breast cancer risk increases with age, so it's really important that women are called appropriately at the right moment. And of course for older women where they're no longer routinely called, that they know that they can refer themselves for screening if that's what they want. So this is a colossal failure, and we've got to understand why it's happened and how to stop it happening again.
So when it works properly, tell us at the stages at which women get called for these screens.
Well, it's normal that you would be called for screening when you reach the age of 50 or around about 50. There is a trial going on where screening is being looked at from the age of 47, and then you would be screened every 3 years until you're 70, and there is a trial going on, and that's what's flagged this issue up, looking at screening for women over the age of 70. So there is consideration going on about the value of screening younger and screening older. But essentially, if you're between the ages of 50 and 70, screening every 3 years, and that's what one would normally expect.
So if there were bound to be women who are thinking, did I get my screen? Did I get my invitation? Did I miss it? Did it not come? Did I accidentally ignore it? What's your advice to them if someone's sitting at home worrying about this?
Well, there will be women sitting at home, maybe who have a recent diagnosis of breast cancer or have heard about this with a diagnosis of advanced breast cancer, and they might be feeling very upset about it. And the Secretary of State, has said that they need to make contact with, with Public Health England, with their GP, to talk about, what's the right thing for them to do. So that's a particular group. And then there's those women who think they may have been affected and don't know, and there are apparently around about 300,000 women are going to be contacted by Public Health England in the next 6 months. But I would say, if you want to know your position, then you should contact your GP or ring Public Health England's helpline.
Yeah, no clinician would mind that, would they?
No, I think GPs will be absolutely keen to do the right thing. And as we've heard from the debate in Parliament, there is information available for GPs, there's information for patients, and that needs to be made readily available so those needing reassurance can have it.
Baroness Morgan from Breast Cancer Now, we really appreciate you coming in at such short notice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the Department of Health says that patients are encouraged not to contact their GP in the first instance, but to contact the dedicated national helpline, as we've been talking about. That's been set up specially. The number is 0800 169 2692, or look on the NHS Choices website for more information. But don't sit at home worrying, I think, is the advice. Senior Cabinet Ministers meet this afternoon to discuss Brexit amid warnings from some Tory MPs that the government's proposed customs partnership with the EU is unacceptable. The proposal would mean the UK collecting tariffs on the EU's behalf.
The MPs deny they're issuing the Prime Minister with an ultimatum, but the row is threatening to split the Cabinet. Theresa May said this lunchtime that the UK would leave the customs union. Here's our political correspondent, Ben Wright.
The UK exports half its goods to the EU. The government is hunting around for a solution and is under political pressure to choose a new customs arrangement.
Why, with just 6 months to go before a draft Brexit deal is signed off, are the government still considering options that we all know are not feasible?
We will be leaving the customs union. We want to ensure that we can have an independent trade policy. We also want to ensure that we actually deliver. We're committed to delivering on our commitment of no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, and ensuring we have as frictionless trade as possible with the European unions. There are a number of ways in which that can be delivered.
There certainly are. One idea being discussed and thought to be Number 10's preference is a plan for the UK to collect tariffs on the EU's behalf at airports and ports. Known as the Customs Partnership, the option has been met with scorn by Brexiteers in Theresa May's own party.
The Customs Partnership does not in the end meet the stated objectives of the government. It doesn't meet the commitments made in the Conservative Party manifesto, nor in the Prime Minister's repeated statements that we will be out of the customs union and the single market.
He and dozens of his Brexit-backing Conservative colleagues think there is a high-tech solution to all this that would avoid the need for a new hard border in Northern Ireland, while giving the UK maximum freedom to strike new trade deals. But other Tory MPs are much more sceptical.
The Customs Partnership is a potential solution, and we shouldn't walk away from the negotiating table before examining it in more detail. We shouldn't tie the government's hands at this stage.
Again, we're seeing how Theresa May is having to negotiate Brexit with her own party and cabinet, as well as the European Union. And this customs question is combustible. Anger the Brexiteers and they might try and bring her down. But Theresa May also knows that a number of Tory MPs could side with Labour in voting for a whole new customs union with the European Union if they think the Prime Minister's plan will damage trade. A cabinet decision on customs isn't expected today, and it will only be the starting point for talks with the EU. But for many at Westminster, this goes to the heart of what Brexit will mean for the UK. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
Our Chief Political Correspondent Vicky Young is in Downing Street. Vicky, how significant could this caution from this group of MPs be for Theresa May?
Well, I think down the line it could be very significant. They're making it clear at this stage that they completely oppose this idea of a customs partnership. Now, the meeting that is just getting underway in Downing Street behind me, we've seen Liam Fox go in and Michael Gove. Two of those are very much who are on the Leave side of the argument during the referendum and who we understand do not think that this is a viable option. So the meeting today really is going to be all about keeping those options open. Now, as we heard from Jacob Rees-Mogg there, he thinks we should take one of them off the table, says it's completely not going to work. There's no point in going forward with it. I think we will end up today where they are proceeding with both of those options. But of course, what opposition MPs are saying is, well, actually, it's possible that neither of them will provide a solution, particularly to the issue of the Irish border. And certainly Brussels has said that it doesn't like either of these options at the moment. So I think we're in a holding pattern, really, where Downing Street are saying we're still going to do the work on both of these, and we'll have to wait and see in the coming days or weeks whether they go forward with a preferred option or not.
Vicky, thank you very much. Vicky Young at Downing Street. Let's go to the Houses of Parliament now and speak to Conservative MP John Redwood. Mr Redwood, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Sorry, I'm forgetting the time of day. It's a habit. What's wrong with these two options, the highly streamlined system and this partnership?
Well, I like the streamlined system. It builds on what we will achieve simply by leaving and being under the World Trade Organization rules. Both we and the EU will be firmly under those rules when we've left, because we will both be members, and they have a facilitation of a trade agreement in place from last spring, which is pretty comprehensive, which means that member states have to have smooth borders and allow the smooth passage of goods. And we think we can add to that some additional improvements, because we are close partners at the moment of the EU, and it's massively in their interest because they send us many more goods than we send them, and so the improved facilitation is the preferred model. Most of these goods now move by large companies sending electronic details in advance of the passage of their lorries, and so you don't need to check individual lorries at the frontiers, and you don't need to work out sums at the frontiers. Taxes are adjusted and consignments are checked electronically with all the trusted operators under the system. So we think build on that.
But
the wider customs partnership simply won't work for all sorts of reasons.
The EU 20